Hey, so I'm going to introduce you to my dog, Tyson. So that was Tyson. We were talking about Schrodinger. You mentioned that one of the big differences between us, and it's true, is that I tend to just read things as they are without meaning, and you tend to read a lot more into meaning, which is kind of cool. But then in some cases, I also put probably a lot more meaning into things than there is. So the way parking works at my high school is that juniors with their license can apply for a parking permit. There are only about 8 slots for juniors since all of the seniors automatically get passes if they apply. So that means that the juniors who drive have to find a different place to park. Some of them park at the archery place across the street. Most of the juniors have to park at the mall, which is about a mile down the road. Not a big deal, you just walk to school, it's fine. So I parked at the mall and walked to school every day junior year. And the only thing that was sort of significant about this was that I parked in front of the same tree. This tree was my tree. So I got my license in January, and I was parking in front of this tree every day. And then around just about the time when spring started to come, the trees started to get their leaves, I got a parking pass to park at school, so I started parking at school every day. But then, of course, this was my tree, so at the end of the school year, I went back for one last visit with my tree. And I noticed that it was really sick. I mean, first of all, it was a different kind of tree than all the other trees. I hadn't noticed before because it was winter, so there weren't any leaves. But my tree actually has red leaves, and all the other trees along the same row have green leaves. Mine is also really sickly. There aren't many leaves left on the one side, and there's this weird mold thing growing, and it's not good. And when I went back and noticed this, I, of course, thought, the tree is a person. I mean, I'd walked by this tree every day for months without noticing that it was any different, or sick, or anything out of the ordinary. And here it was, completely unique, but also really sick. And, I mean, on one level, people are like that, right? But on another level, it was just a tree. And I think noticing that it was just a tree was also as equally important as making the tree a metaphor for human beings. Metaphor is also just as important as the tree itself. So yeah, I add meaning to life too, just not as much. So you didn't ask, but you put in the description of your video, what kind of stories do I make up to entertain myself? The stories I make up to entertain myself sort of vary based on occasion. If I'm in chemistry class, I make up stories about the teacher falling into a hole. When I'm at swim practice, we have to count the laps as we swim. So while I'm swimming the lap, I make up a story about the number in my head. The number 7 wears a suit, in case you're not aware, a tux actually, and he's got a bow tie. It's a black bow tie. He's very classy, number 7, because he's sharp, you see. The angle that 7 makes is sharp. Number 8 is sort of a plump woman. She wears this gorgeous plum dress. I guess I picked plum because it's kind of close to plump. And she wears this great big hat with a feather. She's also a pretty classy lady. That's why 7 and 8 are actually dating. And then when I'm just zoning out or trying to entertain myself while I sit and do nothing, normally I actually have something to do. But if not, I like to think about my perfect day. It's the same day every time. And I'm not really sure why I'm not more creative with my daydreams. Probably because if I'm daydreaming, I'm too lazy to do anything else, so I pick the easiest daydream there is. I could go on and on about my perfect day, but I think what would be more interesting would be to look at, when we're having conversations with people, do we have an obligation to talk about what they like to talk about? Are we as humans supposed to want to know about what makes the other person passionate? I mean, I love listening to you talk about, first editions and everything because, I mean, it interests me a little bit, but it's more your passion for it that makes it interesting. And do we as humans have the obligation to do that for everyone who has a passion for everything? Or do we not? And what if someone's passion is really boring? I mean, I love calculus. I could teach you calculus. I taught my Latin teacher calculus because I loved it so much. to someone who doesn't like math as an obligation to listen to me talk about calculus just because it's what I'm passionate about? Do we have obligations as humans to listen to what people are passionate about, whether or not it interests us? Yeah. Bye. Hey, so this is just an aside for the end of the video. The fact that I'm recording it sloppily and at the end and several days later, right before I go to put everything together, should actually tell you how important it is. There's this group called Invisible Children, and they're out to stop one of the greatest war criminals, or arguably the greatest war criminal in our time. He abducts children in Africa and forces them into war, so he forced them to kill their parents and to kill other children. His name is Joseph Kony, and he absolutely needs to be stopped. One of the biggest weapons we have against him right now is that the more awareness there is, the more the U.S. government is going to do to help stop him. So one of the big goals this year is to get people knowing who the Invisible Children are and why they're trying to stop Joseph Kony. I'm going to post a video in the doobly-doo, so if you could watch the video, it'd be awesome. Tell people about it and support the cause. Alright, that's the end of the awkward aside at the end. Bye.